There we go.
All right. Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Tim. I'm going to be talking to Aaron, Zerk83. I really appreciated his channel. I've been there since he started, and I don't know. I just think he's awesome. So, Zerk, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm here via the web, the interwebs, and same sort of scenario for my respected Tim and his channel. He's had a lot of very cool discussions and topics, and I've played off of him quite a bit, and I've seen him, his channel be somewhat influenced by my channel a little bit, which is honestly like the biggest ego boost I could ever get, because he's such a cool gamer. So, well, anyway, back to Tim.
Thanks for the compliments and all that good stuff, yeah. All right, so we want to talk a little bit about old school games and just some other topics that kind of whatever comes out of our mouth. We'll try to keep it to about a half an hour. We'll see what happens. So, yeah, we were talking a little bit before we started about, you were saying that old school games are starting to get a reputation for, not liking other games.
Yeah, I saw this happen on RPG Net this last couple of weeks. I was almost deemed a troll, I think, by just saying, guys, I'm okay with your game styles. I'm not dissing on you when I say, I like the sandboxing, and I like the older rules with less of the rules part, stuff like that. I mean, and people have been taking offense to it, and I thought it was strange. I don't know if there's some other nefarious people out there who are old school fans, but I figure every group has its share of jerks, and I'm guessing they're starting to finally make a bad name for the rest of us or something. But yeah, I mean, I've even seen some like hatred blog posts for like Matt Finch's old school primer and stuff, which I was like, okay, I mean, you can be mad about it, but I mean, it seems kind of strange to hate something that you don't actually actively participate in. I mean, that's kind of the entire point behind my hatred of the edition wars and not liking the third versus fourth crowd or the fourth versus third crowd, whichever way you want to go with that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because in my perspective, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, okay, I prefer these games or I like these games. I think where it becomes wrong is where you say, like, your game sucks, or this game's terrible, or I don't know. Like, you can have opinions. I don't really understand the idea of tearing someone's baby down. Like, someone has spent a lot of time on whatever RPG you're talking about, and that's someone's baby. You can have, like, I don't know, like old school games. Like you were saying with the rules-lite thing. I like that the rules are basically there, and then they get out of the way. There's holes, I guess, in the rules if you like a lot of rules, but for me, I like to be able to fill those rules with house rules or rulings as I go, and just kind of it's there enough to have some sort of structure, but then it gets out of the way and then just lets the game happen. So
and I have I actually have a lot of respect for new school stuff, for the stuff that's come out recently. I actually have been starting to use it with my games. I'm going to be running a game after this video camera or this session's over, and it's going to be a hex crawl. It's going to be using Swords and Wizardry, but I'm also going to be just porting in some feats, actually, just straight out from 3rd edition. It's going to be pretty simple, and I just I like to pull from all sources, even though I'm not the biggest fan of 3rd edition, as everyone has kind of noticed. I still find cool things in it to take out. So
that's the nice thing I think a lot about all the D20 games is that it's really like the way I look at it is it's a big family. There's a lot of rules out there, a lot of different third-party stuff, and really just I'm the kind of guy that just likes to take what I think is cool and put it into the game, like bolt it on, make some sort of Frankenmonster kind of RPG, or I'll have like 95% of like I'm using Labyrinth Lord, and then I'll just throw in stuff from other games, whatever I think would fit the campaign, and that's how I do it. I don't know.
Oh yeah, Labyrinth Lord's the same sort of thing, same sort of scenario. You can basically just mission mash all sorts of stuff together. I mean, very recently I bought, I'm not really a Labyrinth Lord fan, but I bought a couple Labyrinth Lord supplements to use with, like, Swords and Wizardry or Lamentations, and they'll work pretty well, perfectly fine. That's one of the cool things about the old school sort of revival is that almost all of the different stuff, the OD&D, BX, D&D derived stuff, can all be used interchangeably with almost no house rolling, with nothing.
I've actually incorporated some Lamentation stuff into my Labyrinth Lord game with like the skills with the little D6 diagram on the character sheet. I think that's awesome. Like, you just fill in the pips for what the D6 skill system, and I've actually added a few things instead of just like hear noise. I basically just use it like a perception thing. Like if you have 1 or 2 pips, if you're like a demi-human, or maybe you're a thief and you get some extra pips here and there. So I've been using a lot of, like I said, I just take whatever's out there and just throw it all together, and I don't know, this seems to work for me.
That's cool, and I'm just that was basically I failed miserably at bringing that to the attention of people, but I was like, not all old schoolers are the elitist jerks that you're making them out to be.
You were talking about they only play old school games. I think you've seen my shelf of my books, and it's actually like doubled in size since then. Like I have tons of RPGs that aren't. There's lots of new stuff. There's old stuff. There's stuff, I don't know, middle school stuff. I don't know what you want to call it. But I like all kinds of it. I like story games. I'm definitely not an elitist by any stretch of the imagination. So.
There's no. Yeah, I wasn't blaming you for the troubles of old school too.
Oh no, I didn't say. No, I'm just saying, just me in general. That's just how I am. I'm an omni. I'll play just about anything. There's some things that I don't enjoy, but I don't know. There's lots of stuff I do. So. Yeah,
I've got a couple of things I don't like that I've been voicing slightly, and have had people asking me the questions of like, oh, why do you hate skills? And I've been very hatred of skills for quite a long time, and I don't know. I'm probably going to make a video about that later. I'm not going to waste this video doing it because the conversational part's going to die if I actually got onto that particular tangent or rant. But that's the stuff like that. I don't like it. That's very simple. Whenever I make a rant video, I'm talking about why I don't like it. I'm not talking about why it's objectively bad and no one should ever do it in the history of the world ever. So I hope I've gotten that across in some videos, but okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. The one thing I've noticed about these videos, it's kind of funny. We're so used to just talking like for 15 minutes at a clip or whatever, that I know I have to do it sometimes where I have to like, okay, just listen. Okay, now you can talk, listen, so it's kind of interesting. I like this dynamic back and forth that we're talking about. Actually, if you wanted to do a video about skills, we could do that too if you have time. We'll see. So just old school games in general. It sounds like you've been playing more of those lately, and I'm the same way. I've been playing more old school games lately. Mm-hmm. I don't know. How often do you run your game?
Well, actually, my last game ended in a TPK like 2 weeks ago, so I started up a new one. With a new premise as of today. This is going to be the first session.
Oh, that's kind of exciting. That's always nice to have a new campaign, new characters.
And I give players. That's one of the things I always give players the steering wheel, if you will. So they will sometimes they'll end in TPK, and it's through their own actions, their own choices, and I'm not they kind of get, oh gosh, that's something really big and I should leave it alone. But the TPK that happened was actually kind of a completely utter random thing, and that's part of old school that I like, that a lot of people in the newer crowd, they're not happy with, because it deprotagonizes the characters a bit. And so, but it's just a style. It's a style choice, and anybody can make whatever choices they want for gaming.
I think that's part of the challenge, is like, it seems a little bit more exciting in some ways. Like I said, this is nothing against newer games or whatever. It's just observations I've made. Is characters seem more, they feel danger more. They feel a little bit more fear, I think. And I think that kind of helps them get into character more. They're more concerned about the danger. They're more concerned about the possibility of, a saving throw that might kill them. So they're more cautious. They take more time and effort on things. And you're right. It's not like good or bad. It's just different. So.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I've been really enjoying watching the characters methodically, think things out a little bit. And, sometimes they talk a little too long. It's like, okay, guys, all right, you're overthinking this a little bit. Just, go down and, you can be cautious. I understand what you're saying, but let's, let's try to move this along a little bit. But
yeah, I've had people be overly cautious to the point where it was sort of using outer character knowledge, and then I kind of give them a little talking to. I go, hey, when I talk about player skill, I'm not talking about using your out-of-character knowledge in character. I'm talking about, doing the most intelligent choice you could consider in character. And that's it. No, nothing more. So.
Yeah, staying in character, I think, is really important. Not all my groups are really good at doing it, but some of them are, so that's important.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, well, I'm not quite the sort of immersion fan. I do sort of like to have a little bit of a disconnect between players and characters because I do a lot of BSing during a session. But yeah, but it's cool to have it there. I'm not really out for the craft of RPGing as Ander seems to be. I'm sort of more of just kind of the fun kind of guy who just does the play the game for the game and then set it down.
I've learned since I started recording my sessions, which I'll probably do a video about in the future. It's just I've learned a lot about the way I handle things, and I'm quite jovial. I seem to be laughing a lot. Sometimes I think when I'm listening to myself that I sound kind of annoying, so I've gotten a little self-conscious about that. But I realize that I'm having a really good time running these old school games and not really stressing about the rules so much, and just because I'm not stressing about the rules so much, I'm listening more to the players. I'm laughing at their funny remarks, and I just seem to be having a better time. And I think that's, I don't know, old school traditional games have gotten me to like fantasy again. I got burned out for a little while, so.
Yeah, I hear you. I was in the same vein, man. I burned out on D&D, actually, 3rd edition. Burned me out on D&D. That's not really a combination of 3rd edition. It's probably just a combination of my GMs at the time. But yeah, I mean, that's really what it's all about. Is you go through different phases, you have different styles over time, and you find out what you like, and what you like you keep, what you don't like you kind of set on the shelf. And I've been through a lot of phases, so whereas like for example, Wood has his style, which he's, I'm sure, honed over many years of time and figured out exactly what he likes to pull out of a game. I've hit that style at one point, and I walked past it because it wasn't for me. It didn't give me any fun, but it's cool that all these different people exist, all these different play styles exist, and I like that because we're still all, part and parcel of the same family RPGers. So
yeah, I don't see anything wrong with the fact that we're different or we do things. I think it's kind of interesting because I don't know. I think what's cool about RPGs is you can experiment. Maybe you've been doing the super heavy prep for a long time, and maybe that's actually starting to wear on you a little bit. So maybe you could try more like my approach, where sometimes I'll do a little bit of prep and just have a skeleton, and the rest is just kind of at the table. I just listen to the characters and.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I have a very small amount of prep. I usually have a premise and maybe a couple NPCs written up, depending on if they're important, and everything else it just kind of flows with the game. I don't force anything. I don't like to do that. I like to give the players, like I said, the plot steering wheel. So it's not like the well that they want to go down is in whatever direction that they walk. I don't quite do that so much, but I kind of give them the option of what they're going to do next. So.
I love giving players and characters options. I definitely tend to be more sandboxy. I realize at times that there's some groups or some players that have a hard time playing in that sort of idea or feel of a campaign, and sometimes they need a little nudge, or maybe you need to spend a little bit more time with that player, and no, really, man, is there anything that you want to do? Is there something with your background or something with your character that you want to try to do? And I found that with the sandboxing thing, it's awesome when it works, and then sometimes it needs a little bit of doctoring. You need to kind of help it along, or maybe not put railroad tracks down, but you put a few roads.
Yeah, I find that the main problem with sandboxing, the parts where basically it all falls flat and dies, is the thing is the GM can change GM styles. Sort of like as I keep making the example, me and Wood, we have different styles. But if a player goes to Wood's game and then comes to my game, they're going to expect completely different things, and they're going to have to change and cope with their new style if they want to play in my game. Now, if they don't, they can move to another game. But that's basically how I have it set up. So you have to really, as a player, be able to do sort of see your pants player-driven action and not expect too much product from the GM. So you have to have that characterization and exactly where you want to go, what you want to do, and not so much, I want to sit in the inn and drink all day, that sort of thing. I mean, that's just not fun.
I totally see what you're saying. It's like you can mix and match. You basically have just this big old Santa Claus bag on your back, and you can just pull out whatever you think will work for the moment, And I don't know. I mix things up. I'll throw the players. Sometimes I'll sit down for a while, and sometimes I'll walk around the table, depending on what the scene or what's going on in the game. And I try to make the players guess, like, well, what's Tim gonna do this next session? Because I think that gives some excitement. And if I've noticed that the GM is excited, and I'm more excited, it seems lately with these old school games, that the players kind of feed off of that energy. And that'll help them as well, because it's like, oh, well, Tim's doing all these different things in the game, So as a player, and I try to tell them this, just do what you think would be fun and enjoy yourself, and let's just see what happens,
Yeah, I hear a lot about mistakes that can happen during the no prep kind of style, and I've come to expect them, and I use them to make the game better. I've had it for example, I've had a player come to a hex that he knew there was a river at one point in time, and there wasn't one there because I forgot to draw it.
Awesome.
And then he makes the remark, "There's no river here anymore." And then I realize, oh wait, there was a river there at one point. So yes, there isn't a river here now, and you were not quite sure why.
Yeah, and you need to find out the reason why. And then in the back of your head, you're thinking, is there a dam somewhere? Or is this magical? What happened to this river?
Yeah, it's usually like a wizard did it, or there's a hive of super beavers or something crazy. I like to have a little zaniness in it from time to time. All right, I'm too big of a fan of Fallout not to have a little bit of zany crap in my games from time to time.
You got some dire beavers that are all hopped up on magical plants or something.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I see what you're saying with using your mistakes and weaving those into the story as well, because those can be... I like surprises as a GM. I think, like what Anders always saying, that the players need to sort of entertain the GM as well. I'm not as big on that, but I do love it when players surprise me or something happens in the game that I would have never thought of, because that just makes it more enjoyable for me. I think it's that challenge that I'm kind of getting addicted to, I think, as a GM, where it's like, okay, here's a bunch of interesting ideas that the players are throwing out, or there's this monkey wrench that just came out of left field. How am I going to deal with that? And it always works. I always come up with some sort of solution. It might not be the one I had thought in my head, but I'm not really a plot GM. I think I was just talking with this about Alkov, where I'll make some NPCs and their motivations and things. They're, like you were saying with the hex crawl, maybe there's some certain things on the map that are going on despite what the players do. But the rest of it is I just roll with it. And like you said, I take the mistakes and I don't know. It works for me.
Yeah, it works for me most of the time. I've had stumbling blocks from here and there. I mean, I'm not the machine of sandboxing. I've very recently even learned about it, so I'm still very much a novice at getting it all figured out. But I usually have something I can pull out of my nether regions in order to get the game back on track and everybody having fun. I'm not so much as you were saying, the person who wants the players to entertain them. I'm not so much the dance monkey dance kind of GM like that. I'm more of I take an active role in playing whenever I'm, because I don't prep very much. So I'm sort of playing along with the players. So I want to see what happens next too. And that's where all my fun comes from. I play in the same sort of vein as the players. That's where I get it. I get it from the group synergy. So really, I sort of am still feeding off the players, but I'm feeding off, I'm hoping to give them something to feed off of as well, at the same time.
I like it sounds like you really enjoy role playing out your NPCs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I do too. I like to use different body language and like move around a little bit. I was talking to Alakov about sometimes when I have a little bit of prep. Sometimes I'll have a name, maybe some personality quirks or whatever, and that's really all I have for that character. But as I'm role playing it just, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, where it's almost like the character just kind of takes over. It's like I just think in my head, okay, this is the way he thinks. Whatever questions they ask him or whatever, this is how he's, this is kind of how he is. So I'm just going to go with that. Do you find those moments kind of cool too?
I actually don't do that, sadly. I don't get that far into character. So maybe that's something you're better at than me. But usually how I make NPCs is in a completely different manner. I've got a vast knowledge of fictional characters. I've been reading ever since I've learned that there were books that you could buy and bring to your house. And I'm a big reader, and I'm also a big fan of various fictional series and like on television and whatnot. So For example, today I've got the game going to happen. It's going to start on a pirate ship, and I've got 4 NPCs on the pirate ship, and they're very specific characters. I'm actually stealing characters from the Sons of Anarchy TV show. I'm just going to change their names. They're going to be the exact same characters, though.
Okay.
So it's that's basically how I do it. And then I think, what would that character do? And then sort of everything goes from there. But I never really get to the point where I'm in the mind of the character. Sadly, I don't even do that with when I'm playing. So like I said, I'm not an immersion kind of guy, so I never get that close to the character.
Well, I think someone labeled me sort of as a frustrated actor or something, because I really like doing that. I don't think I would ever be sort of movie star material by any stretch of the imagination. I'd have to probably do about 8,000 crunches before that would happen.
You more than likely have better NPCs because of that, better than me anyway. So I salute you for that.
Yeah, I think that's really... I kind of like that immersion sort of escapism, I guess, if you will, with taking on the sort of mannerisms and personality, voices. I definitely tend to use the funny voices more so than some other GMs I've encountered, I guess. I don't know. But we'll get back to your idea. I think that's a great way to do it for the NPCs. Maybe it's like, well, this guy's like Captain Nemo, but he has these differences, or he's like this character, but it sounds like that's a good foundation to start from. Yeah,
basically, it's the starting foundation. Sometimes I make them more in depth. Sometimes I throw curveballs into them, but I'm not saying utterly and completely steal from fictional sources for everything, but you can steal a little bit.
Oh, that's cool. All right, so old school games in general. It sounds like you play more Swords and Wizardry, and I know I've watched your videos on those ones. There's like Labyrinth Lord and Lamentations of the Flame Princess, and some of these games seem to incorporate newer ideas, like Lamentations a little bit more, I think. But I don't know. They're all cool in my opinion. I have them all, so I don't know. They're pretty sweet.
Yeah, I hear you. I've actually not played Swords yet. This will be my first session of it, to be honest.
Really?
But I played Warhammer, and I played, which isn't really an old school game. I've never played Labyrinth Lord. It didn't entice me to it, sadly. And but I played a little Lamentations, and yeah, it was a lot of fun when I played it. So I hope to get some of the same sort of stuff out of Swords and Wizardry. I like to switch it up. If like a game ends, I like to switch up the game, the entire, like, the rule set and everything. I'm kind of a system tinkerer in that regard. So. Yeah,
you're also talking to a fellow tinkerer, so I know what you're all about. Sometimes when I start a new game, especially with the Labyrinth Lord game I started, I had a series of house rules, and this is how I want to play it. And I kind of asked the players, what they thought of them, and do you think I should change any of these? And I also kind of said, hey, if one of these rules is dumb or it seems kind of unbalanced later, we'll talk about it and we'll revise it. But I don't know. For me, it seems to be easier to add rules onto things than to take rules away. So I think that's why I've been really excited about the old school Renaissance kind of games.
Yeah, I hear you there. That's completely true. But I've also there is some things that are easy to take away from the old school game. I've a friend of mine has once came up and he said, "How do I make 3rd edition into an old school game?" And I said, "Well, it's really, really easy. All you have to do is take feats and skills and delete them. And it's an old school game. And you might want to stop hit points at 9th level too. But that's it. You have class abilities, you have your base stats, that's it. And everything is derived off of that."
Have you seen Castles and Crusades, or have you looked at that at all?
Yeah, I have. I had a copy of that 2 different points in time. I had the original printing, which I was thoroughly disgusted with because it was terrible layout.
That's rough.
And then I got like the 4th or 5th printing, and it was a much better layout. But I don't know, it just didn't jive with me. I don't know why, but it just didn't. It didn't seem like, it's kind of weird. I don't know. I'm a fan of like very few rules, but for some reason, I guess the unified mechanic, the utterly unified mechanic, kind of throws me off. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's a nice kind of, I don't know. For me, it's kind of a in between sort of hybrid between like 3rd and like the old school feeling a little bit. I played a one shot of it at my convention in Pittsburgh, and it was like an all dwarf party. I had a lot of fun. It was an awesome idea for a game, regardless of the system. But I after that game, I went out and picked up the rules because like I said, I got rules all over the place on my bookshelf. But I don't know, it's there. I haven't really read through it all the way yet, but it's just another option for me. If someone's ever running a Castles and Crusades game, I can play in it, or maybe I'll run it someday. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's always good to have the knowledge of a lot of different things. If you've, I know everybody knows me as Simple Man on RPGNet. If anybody's ever checked on the game index on RPGNet and checked to see how many games I've rated, it's like 600 now.
Wow,
it's pretty high. And so I've done a lot of rating of games, and I've got a pretty wide knowledge. And most of those ratings are negative, but it's all from my own personal opinions. And so I try not to be too vocal about it out here in the tubes because it seems like it's getting to that point where it's like if I say something negative, then it becomes like I'm saying that something is objectively bad.
Yeah, I think people. I don't know. That's another thing to be said. I think people seem to be kind of sensitive about that. Like your style's different than mine. We're just slightly different people. But I think that's a strength more than a negative. I think it's awesome that we have so many different types of people, types of personalities, and how we all have our take on RPGs. I don't know. I don't see anything wrong with not liking a game.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, I don't. There's no Gestapo that's going to show up and tell me that I have to like a certain game, or they're going to break my knees or something. So.
Yes. You must play 4th edition. It is the current one.
Play or die.
Yeah. So. And ultimately, I've given up 4th edition. You might have saw I had a couple of review videos for it, and
I thought it was awesome that you tried it out. It's like, hey, I'm going to try this out and see what happens.
I did. I tried it out. But I only played, one session, maybe 2 sessions. I can't remember exactly at this point. I have a really bad memory, too, so I end up forgetting things, or things melt together in my head a lot. So, that's almost every time I do a video, I have to look through all of my videos to make sure I didn't do the same video before.
Yeah, I'm actually getting to that point now. It's like, well, I want to do this video. It's like, wait, I think I did that when I had my hair really short before. So it's like I have to go back and look through, because I think I'm getting close to. I think it might be over 300 videos now. I don't know. They're not all RPG videos, but I do have to do that too. I have to check to see if I didn't rant or rave about that in the past. So I don't know.
Yeah, and if we've got a couple minutes left, I do. I guess want to talk about the humanocentric thing. You were saying that you had a humanocentric rant. Can we make that into a bullet point or two?
I think I talked a little bit about that in that 1st edition AD&D game, and the thing, it's kind of interesting. I'm reading an old game in the present, so it was kind of, I don't know, maybe I gave it kind of an unfair shake, but I don't know. I can play in a game that's humanocentric or humans only. It depends on what your definitions, like you said, what all these things are. I just don't. And the old school games are like this, where like the humans have unlimited potential, and the demi-humans. You can say balance or whatever. They seem to be kind of held back a little bit.
Yeah, no one likes racial restrictions. Nobody. I don't even like them.
Yeah, I think the retro clone Dark Dungeons totally got away with threw those out. I think they're all, all the classes pretty much go to 36 level or something. And I want to try to incorporate that into my Labyrinth Lord game if I get a chance to get that high level. I think they're like 1st through 3rd level right now. So we'll see.
Yeah, Swords and Wizardry Complete has those restrictions in them, but it's pretty easy just to ignore them and just say, oh, okay, well, humans get an extra 10% experience points bonus for being human. That's it.
That's a good way of handling that, because demi-humans do have bonuses and special abilities that the humans don't have. So I mean, there's something to be said for some sort of game balance, or trying to be closer to some sort of balance with that kind of stuff.
Or you could just ignore it and just basically, I always try to do a little bit of a balanced thing. I'm a balance monkey, but I like to do that because I don't want the people who play humans to be playing a specifically inferior choice as a race. I'm like, well, that's kind of bad for games being a game system nut job. Though it doesn't really influence play as much anymore, because I do less in counterbalance, and basically you end up with a lot more player-driven stuff. So it doesn't really matter what the players are playing. But as long as they're within power levels that are somewhat comparable, it's not like, oh yes, this guy over here is the Angel Summoner and the other guy's the BMX Bandit. But it's more like this guy's a BMX bandit, and the guy next to him's the skateboard bandit or something, you know?
I think for me, it was more of a, like, it's almost like a setting rant with RPG mechanics attached to it. Like, I think that was my main gripe. It's just, you know, why do humans always have to be the most successful, most dominant, you know? I know it's kind of Tolkien-based, and, you know, the dwarves are kind of, you know, they don't like to mate, you know? So there's like, you know, very few dwarf children, and they're dying out, and, you know, the elves are all leaving, so there's less elves, and I don't know. I think that might be more my thing. I don't like the race and level restrictions, and I just don't like the idea that humans are always the most dominant.
I mostly do the humans are most dominant in the good side of the world. I like it, but really, if you look at, you know, the actually most dominant race in the world, it's usually the monsters. It's usually orcs or you know, just, you know, in general, all the stuff that wants to destroy the goodness.
I guess that's true. I guess you can. It depends on how the setting is set up, and, you know, where all the evil kingdoms are. Maybe there's just like one human kingdom, and that's just where the campaign happens to be based. So.
Well, yeah. Well, you know, points of light kind of scenario, which is really the bread and butter of the sandboxes. You have, like, here's all these little towns. In between it is a harsh wilderness that is full of evil beasties, you know.
And a big old dungeon.
And, of course, dungeons and ruins. And
yeah.
There's a big tribe of orcs over here and that sort of thing.
All right, well, we've actually gone over half an hour, so
all right.
Do you have any finishing comments?
No, not really. I mean, I like your channel. I want you to do more videos. And that's one thing I wanted to comment on. Is like and this is completely utterly nothing to do with you. Is that I've been seeing some of my favorite YouTubers, and they've been doing less videos. It's not you, but like Jordan needs to do more videos. I like hearing what he's got to say. He's a cool guy. And same with Win. Win needs to be doing more videos. I know he's got kind of some personal stuff going on, and I do too. But, you know, I just like to, I want to put out the word that I'm missing their videos. You know what I'm saying?
I'm missing them too, and I think what it just comes down to is realize that real life can be a real bastard sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's really what's keeping them from the YouTube videos. But we'll see. All right, well, I greatly appreciate this. This has been a really interesting talk. I don't know, maybe we'll do more of these in the future. We'll see.
I hope so. All right.
All right, man. Thanks. I'll talk to you soon.